I'm Katie Pfohl. I am the curator of modern contemporary art and the curator of Dawn DeDeaux' retrospective at NOMA. You walk into the show and it really does feel like you're in another world. You see the giant 30-foot space ring, darkened galleries, and a whole series of immersive video installations, and work that really reflects Dawn's career beginning in the 1970s up through the present day.
In the early 80s, I had been walking around in Egypt, and I realized with every step I took, I started looking at my feet. It wasn't dirt as we know it to grow our plants. It was shards of culture, a bit of a piece of pottery, a bit of a statue that fell off. And I realized that we are the dust of the earth, not just our loved ones, but the bones of culture itself, and how special this earth really is.
Since the 1970s, her work has really been grappling with so many of the issues that we're facing today and trying to use art as a tool that asks us to think about different ways we can come together and coexist as we face this.
There's a piece called Almost Touching You. It's two figures. They're dancing, and the man can't quite touch the woman. There's this barrier. Of course, then it was inspired by AIDS, but we're in a new epidemic, are we not? And intimacy is again challenged.
Almost doing things we used to do.
Dawn lost her entire body of work, her whole art studio, as well as her home during Hurricane Katrina. So we remastered waterlogged cassette tapes and videotapes. We saved old slides to share documentation of pieces. And pretty much all of the big installations you see we had to remake based on old photographs because almost all of this work was gone.
I think a lot of us are still trying to rebuild a bit from Katrina. The first experience I was doing a long walk, and I got to where a shopping center had been, and I was standing 18 inches or so in shattered glass. But all of a sudden the sun came out, and I'm standing in a field of diamonds. It started glittering. This is the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. And nature gives us that. In its destruction, it gives us renewal, it gives us beauty.
This exhibition follows a series of exhibitions over the course of the past couple years at the museum that have really tried to confront head-on some of the issues relating to climate change. Louisiana is one of the fastest eroding land masses in the world. We're in some ways have a front row seat for what's coming. And I think we've taken it as a museum as a real obligation to empower the voices of artists who are responding to those issues.
We are the fastest eroding landmass in the world, and with the oil dredging and the saltwater intrusion, it's just startling to see huge oak trees that have been around for hundreds of years meeting a quick death for a convenience of industry.
You know, it's interesting. You can walk through the exhibition and see a show that in some ways appears really dark, right? It's addressing some of the most difficult issues of our time. But to me, the show is really about, how we can come together and persevere in the face of all of that. I find a lot of power and purpose in looking at this artist who lost everything and is looking at some of these really difficult issues of our moment and is still believes and imagines the different world or a different future could come to pass. So in a really funny way, I hope that people emerge from the show both sobered about the challenges that we face and ready to address them, but hopefully also with a little bit of optimism that there is a way to address them and there is a different path forward.
In the Great Hall, we have something to remind us of how fragile this all is. This asteroid has an anamorphic kind of shape, and it is reiterating the forms of the surrounding figurative works. They're breaking up and turning back to chips of meteor. In the end, it's very sacred, isn't it? It puts aside all of our differences because it is the common end. It is us, and even without life, running around on the planet, we are the planet, and that's a beautiful thing.